It's been about a month since I did the last Undiscovered Gems, so it's a good time to bring this back. Episode 9, the last one I did was Yonsei. The entire video I was calling him Johnsey, which is hilarious now that I know how to pronounce his name, but I feel like I do this so often that it's become such a staple for my channel to just completely botch names and titles and pronunciations. But this time around we're going for Emperor X with the album Western Teleport. Western Teleport is a pretty low-key indie album from the project Emperor X, which is just a one-man project fronted by the man Chad Matheny, which is a name I probably have just botched once again. He is the mastermind behind this whole project. They have had other albums since this, but they've been pretty low-key and haven't really had any major promotion or anything like that. You can really truly say that this is an artist that is an undiscovered gem. It's very different to the videos where I've done for, like, you know, Regina Spektor or Yonsei, who are, you know, household names in a lot of like music circles, whereas Emperor X is just a complete nobody essentially. It's a very emo tinged indie folk album, which I guess the closest comparison I could make that could get people to kind of understand the sound that they're going for is probably Andrew Jackson Jihad or AJJ when they changed their name to AJJ. For me, this is kind of like the AJJ album that we never got. While that band was pretty talented, they did kind of fall off as time went on, and honestly their older work hasn't really held up that well in my opinion. But Emperor X here have completely just stole the show in this genre, I think. In terms of indie folk music, I guess I've been pretty harsh towards it. I mean, it was only yesterday I just did that Alex G review where I kind of went in on the album quite harshly, because I do find that a lot of artists kind of just feel like they're nondescript singers. They're not really adding much personality to the music, whereas I feel Chad here actually has a lot to offer in terms of vocal presence. He has a very impassioned delivery, and I mean passion. I mean, the opening track is a perfect example of that. The track has a very simple but lovely opening guitar lead. He comes through with his John Darnielle-isms in his vocals on this track as well. The song essentially about how he once loved a woman, and he's essentially just saying how he needs to forget about her, stop thinking about her in all these different scenarios, and how that's just affecting his brain because he can't stop thinking about all these small details about her. I mean, you get the impression that it's from his perspective, but he is saying it as don't think of her, so he could actually be telling someone else to not do this, but he also could be talking to himself. Very much in tune with your typical breakup indie emo anthem, but I think how he phrases a lot of the lyrics on this track is really, really smart, and it's incredibly catchy. Honestly, that's the best quality that Chad has going for him, because he can just come through with some really strong vocal melodies. The track Canada Day has a much more lo-fi quality to it, but it's no less catchy, and, you know, Chad brings his own personality to the track once again, and depicts a really interesting story about him and a girl essentially running off together. In the track, the person he's talking about here says that she'd rather live somewhere else to where she's currently living, and they essentially run away together to live in a completely different place. And by the end of the song he explains how things have changed where he came from and things are very different now. The track actually reveals a very important detail about Chad's personal life though, as on the verse following the one about how she wants to run away, he says that, you know, they escaped to her apartment, they're on the 30th floor, she had a great view, but that only counts for the non-blind, essentially stating that, yeah, she has a great view to her vision, but he doesn't because he's blind and there is no view to him. Which to me was actually a really interesting way to bring up the fact that he is legally blind, and it was something that I didn't even know until reading the lyrics, but yeah, it is true that he is legally blind. Little details like that in his songwriting really separate him from many other contemporary artists around today who are, you know, talented songwriters, because I think just little details are really, really important to make you separate from everyone else. And that essentially brings me to the centerpiece of the album, because if we're talking about poignant details and amazing lyrics, we gotta mention the track Allahu Akbar, which, for as fantastic as the whole album is, this one track stands above the rest like a sore thumb, because this is like God tier in comparison to the album. And I think the album is pretty great as it is anyway, but this one track just ends every song for eternity. The song to end all songs is the song of a lifetime. I feel like I've become a changed man the minute I played this song. And even though I said that, you know, Emperor X is a pretty unknown name, I mean, I imagine you coming onto this video, you've probably never even heard of Emperor X. So it is a very unknown artist, but this song did catch a little bit of traction, and Chad himself did have to explain the lyrics himself just to sort of clear the air a little bit, to stop any controversies coming his way, any confusion about the track. I mean, this song really could have been one of those songs that became a huge viral indie anthem, and we would be talking about a very different artist right now, but it isn't one of those songs, which is a shame because it deserved to be, honestly. But you are asking for a little bit of trouble titling your song Allahu Akbar from many sides of the argument, honestly, because you're going to get people that are like, this is pro-Islam. But more specifically, I think this song did catch a few people that thought it was actually the opposite of that, and they believed it was some kind of mockery, but it isn't at all. He stated actually that it's more of a mockery of us, this idea that, you know, this new progressive mindset is leaning towards atheism, but instead we're actually forgetting to ask the important spiritual questions that comes along with religion, and how religion actually is important in itself. And using Islam as a tool to drive the song is, you know, the way that Westerners have become to perceive Islam, and how actually it's kind of silly, because Allahu Akbar as a statement just means God is great, and every religious person in the world, billions of people, believe that by definition. So by using that, the song ends up being fairly cynical and quite satirical as well, which I feel as though as to why some people got confused with the message, and it got a little bit lost in translation, and so he had to come forward and explain that. And it's all wrapped though in this like huge positive ball. Like it's just this completely positive, enlightening message that isn't really there to separate people. Essentially, it's there to bring people together. And just by that alone, it makes this song so unique to me and so special for that, because not only is it so well done lyrically, but musically it's phenomenal. Like, this is such a fun track. The fucking rave of a tune this is, when the chorus kicks in, it is just so euphoric and unbelievable. It just brings out these feelings that so many other songs just don't manage to do. And regardless of the message at hand here, you know, you could say, well, it's very pro-religion, what about the other side of the argument? Well, yeah, fair enough, but we have plenty of atheist songs out there to look at too, so I think it's okay to get the other side of the argument sometimes as well. And I'll be honest, I'm not religious at all. I wasn't raised around religion. I've never really had it as a significant part of my life, unless it's been through education. I've just not really felt the need to ever really seek out religion. But I don't think that matters at all in regards to a song like this. It's never mattered, honestly. If the artist is pushing forward a left-wing message, a right-wing message, I don't really think it matters, as long as they're not pushing something that's negative. And this is not negative in the slightest, so I'm all for it. And before I end up talking about this one song alone for the entire album review video thing, I should probably move on, because this one song could get its own like 25-minute video, honestly. I didn't even touch on everything on the song alone. I just think you've just got to go listen to it for yourself, and you'll see what I mean. And while it is the centerpiece of the album does continue to bring some really great indie folk tunes throughout as well. It ends really strong. I love the last few tracks. I just think they have such a nice, soft sounding vibe to them that just really brings this like peaceful energy that I think that Chad just completely oozes with all of his songs. And yeah, I love this album. I think it's fantastic. Honestly, going to be a huge decade highlight for me, and a major highlight in this genre at large. I've already mentioned John Darnielle in this video. If you're a Mountain Goats fan, you should definitely check this out. If you're an emo indie rock fan, you know, bands from the 90s that were doing that emo style, then, you know, like such as like American Football, Sunny Day Real Estate, I think you'd get something out of this as well. If you just love a well-written album with some really interesting lyrical themes, I just don't see why this wouldn't be for you. Really fantastic. Hopefully you check it out based on my recommendation. If you do let me know. Have a good day. Thank you for watching my review. Do subscribe if you haven't already. Goodbye.